Welcome to Safer Staff. This presentation is designed for Schoolway Cafe staff and will cover best practices for key food safety regulations mandated by the USDA. Food safety is an important responsibility of all school nutrition employees. Federal laws require that all school food authorities develop and implement a food safety program based on hazard analysis and critical control points, also known as HACCP. These programs must be developed and implemented in all schools. It is critical that all school nutrition employees have a thorough knowledge of food safety principles so that they can implement a strong food safety program on a daily basis. Let's define a few key terms. A foodborne illness is a disease transmitted to people by food or water. There are many types of foodborne illnesses. Each has symptoms specific to that illness. A foodborne illness must be confirmed with laboratory analysis. In most cases, the source of the illness can be identified. A foodborne illness outbreak is an incident when two or more people experience the same symptoms after eating a common food. If an outbreak is suspected, it must be reported to the local Department of Health. The immune system is the body's defense against illness. Elderly people are at high risk because their immune systems have weakened with age. Very young children are at risk because they have not built a strong immune system. Certain medical conditions and medications can weaken a person's immune system. These include cancer or chemotherapy treatment, HIV or AIDS, and other transplants. Food most likely to become unsafe are also called TCS foods, which stands for Time and Temperature Control for Safety. These foods include the following: milk and dairy products, shell eggs, beef, pork, and lamb, poultry, fish, and shellfish. Let's turn our attention to what we can do to keep food safe. If a foodborne illness occurs because of eating or drinking a contaminated food or beverage, we need to examine what can contaminate these products. There are generally three main categories of hazards or contaminants: biological, chemical, and physical. Biological hazards include microorganisms such as bacteria, viruses, parasites, fungi, and foods that contain toxins such as mushroom and fish. Here are a few steps you can take to prevent biological hazards. Purchase food only from approved sources. Accept food only if it is at appropriate temperatures. Store raw and cooked foods separately. Store food at least 6 inches off the floor. Please make sure you follow good personal hygiene practices such as hand washing, clean uniforms, and proper glove use. Chemical contamination can happen at any stage in food production and processing. Here are a few examples of chemical hazards: sanitizers, pesticides, whitening agents, detergents, polishes, glass cleaners, and cleaning and drying agents. Here are a few steps you can take to prevent chemical hazards. Accept food only if the packaging is intact. Store chemicals away from food. Store chemicals in locked storage cabinet or closet. Store chemicals in original containers. Label the names of each chemicals on approved containers. Follow instructions on how to use chemicals. Mix sanitizing agents to the appropriate concentration according to the manufacturer's instruction. And last, wash fresh produce thoroughly in cold running water. Physical hazards include any potential harmful extraneous matter not normally found in food. Here are a few examples: glass, staples, metal shavings, toothpicks, nail polish, artificial nails, hair, jewelry, bones, stones, and equipment parts. Here are a few steps to prevent physical hazards in your food. Follow personal hygiene, such as not using nail polish, don't use artificial nails, do not wear jewelry, and do not wear any wedding rings with stones. Wear hair restraints, such as hair nets. Use an ice scoop rather than glass for serving ice. Clean can opener blades after each use. Remove staples, nails, and other packaging components from boxes in the receiving area. Do not carry a pen or pencil behind your ear. Use a licensed pest control operator for routine pest control. There are four types of microorganisms that can contaminate food and cause foodborne illnesses. A microorganism is defined as a living organism too small to be seen with the naked eye, but visible under a microscope, also called microbe. Here are a few examples of microorganisms: bacteria, virus, fungi, and parasites. Food allergens. A food allergen is a protein in a food or ingredient that some people are sensitive to. These proteins can occur naturally. When enough of an allergen is eaten, an allergic reaction can occur. This is when the immune system mistakenly considers the allergen to be harmful and attacks the food protein. Risk factors for foodborne illnesses are related to five main practices: purchasing food from unsafe sources, time temperature abuse, cross-contamination, poor personal hygiene, and cleaning and sanitizing. Risk factors for foodborne illness are related to five main practices: purchasing foods from unsafe sources, time temperature abuse, cross-contamination, poor personal hygiene, and cleaning and sanitizing. Personal hygiene has been identified as one of the food safety practices that is most needed and often is not followed. Schoolway Cafe staff are required to follow all district safety guidelines pertaining to food washing, food handling, employee health, dress code, and proper glove use. Hand washing is one of the most critical food safety practices in the kitchen and should take at least 20 seconds. For proper hand washing, please follow the instructions listed on your screen. First, wet hands and arms using running warm water. Second, apply soap. Apply enough to build up a good lather. Third, scrub hands and arms vigorously for 10 to 15 seconds. Make sure you clean your fingertips, under your fingernails, and between fingers. Fourth, rinse your hands and arms thoroughly using running warm water. And last, dry hands and arms using a single paper towel or hand dryer. When should you wash your hands? When changing task, leaving and returning to the kitchen or prep area, when using electronic devices, or touching your hair, face, or body, touching your aprons or your clothing, if you use the restroom, or handling chemicals, and cleaning tables or washing dishes. Pathogens can be spread to food if equipment has not been cleaned and sanitized correctly between uses. This can happen if equipment and utensils are not washed, rinsed, and sanitized between uses. Food contact surfaces are wiped clean instead of being washed, rinsed, and sanitized. Wiping cloths are not stored in a sanitizer solution between uses. Sanitizer solution was not prepared correctly. How should you clean and sanitize? First, scrape or remove food bits from the surface. Then wash, rinse, and sanitize the surface area. And lastly, allow the surface to air dry. To avoid foodborne illnesses, food handlers can avoid food temperature abuse by monitoring time and temperature. Make sure the correct kinds of thermometers are available. Regularly record temperatures and the times they were taken. Minimize the time that food spends in the temperature danger zone. Take corrective actions if time temperature standards are not met. A bimetallic stem thermometer is required to monitor time and temperature and can check temperatures from 0 to 220 degrees Fahrenheit. This thermometer measures temperature through its metal stem. When checking temperatures, insert the stem into the food up to the dimple. You must do this because the sensing area of the thermometer goes from the tip of the stem to the dimple. This trait makes this thermometer useful for checking the temperature of large or thick food. It is usually not practical for thin food such as hamburger patties. The calibration nut is used to adjust the thermometer to make it accurate. The indicator head should have an easy-to-read marking. Clear markings reduce the chance that someone will misread the thermometer. The thermometer must be scaled in at least 2-degree increments. Thermometers must be calibrated daily to ensure accuracy and prevent foodborne illness. To calibrate a thermometer using the ice point method, first, fill a large container with ice and add tap water. Second, submerge the sensing area and wait 30 seconds. And third, adjust the thermometer so it reads 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Here are some general guidelines when using a thermometer. When checking the temperature of food, insert the probe into the thickest part of the food. This is usually in the center. Also take another reading in a different spot if necessary. The temperature may vary in different areas. Before recording a temperature, wait for the thermometer reading to steady. Wait at least 15 seconds after you insert the stem or the probe into the food. Proper glove use is one of the most effective ways to ensure food stays safe. Gloves should always be worn when handling ready-to-eat foods. They are not required when washing produce and handling ready-to-eat ingredients for a dish that will be cooked. How should you use your gloves? Wash and dry hands before putting gloves on. Select the correct glove size. Hold gloves by the edge when putting them on. Once gloves are on, check for rips or tears. Never blow into your gloves and never roll gloves to make them easier to put on. Food handlers can contaminate food in any of the following situations: if they have a foodborne illness, or if they have wounds or boils that contain a pathogen, if they sneeze or cough, if they have contact with a person who is ill, or if they use the restroom and do not wash their hands, or if they have any symptoms such as diarrhea, vomiting, or jaundice. In the next few slides, we'll discuss the flow of food in preparation, cooking, cooling, and reheating. It is the responsibility of the food handler to ensure food always remains safe. Food handlers can prevent cross-contamination by prioritizing the following steps. Store raw meat away from ready-to-eat food. Assign a specific equipment to each food product.
Always clean and sanitize. Use proper hand washing between tasks, and always utilize single-use gloves. To prevent time temperature abuse, build time temperature control to recipes. Make calibrated thermometers available. And always remove only as much food from storage as necessary. Washing fresh fruits and vegetables is critical in preventing the spread of foodborne illness. Please follow the directions from your recipes for further instructions. When thawing food, it is best to do so in a refrigerator at 41 degrees Fahrenheit or lower to keep the food out of the temperature danger zone. You can also thaw the food in a microwave oven if the food will be cooked immediately after thawing. You can also submerge the food under running water at a temperature of 70 degrees Fahrenheit or lower. You can also thaw the food as part of the cooking process. Cooking foods to the correct internal temperature will destroy existing bacteria. The key to this step of the food service process is to reach recommended temperatures within an appropriate time frame. Here are the temperatures to mark on your thermometer. For poultry, stuffing, stuffed meats, stuffed pasta and casserole, leftovers should be at 165 degrees. For ground meats, such as hamburgers, ground pork, or sausage, 155 degrees. For beef, pork roast, beef steaks, ham, and fish, 145 degrees. And ready-to-eat foods taken from a commercially processed or hermetically sealed package, such as vegetables, 140 degrees. Holding food after it has been cooked until serving time is done routinely in food service operations that serve large numbers of people. In the holding step, the main consideration is the need to keep cold food cold and hot food hot. Cold food should be held at or below 41 degrees Fahrenheit, and hot food should be held at or above 140 degrees Fahrenheit. In other words, it is important to keep food out of the temperature danger zone while holding prior to service. Serving food to customers is typically the last step of the food service process. School nutrition employees can do everything correctly up until the point of service and still serve unsafe food. There are two main food safety concerns at the serving step. First, contamination. Use clean and sanitized utensils. Use first in, first out method when replenishing. Wash hands between tasks and change gloves between tasks. Temperature control. Have a calibrated thermometer on hand. Keep hot food hot and cold food cold. Take temperatures at the deepest part of the food. For the cooling process, it is imperative that hot food is cooled from 140 degrees Fahrenheit to 70 degrees Fahrenheit within 2 hours. If this step is not achieved, the food must be reheated to 165 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 seconds or be discarded. Food must be cooled within a total of 6 hours from 140 degrees Fahrenheit to 41 degrees Fahrenheit. Food that start at room temperature must be cooled to 41 degrees Fahrenheit within 4 hours. Reheating is the final step of the food service process. Reheating is the process of heating a previously cooked food or a leftover. Reheating must be done to the appropriate temperature using the correct equipment, and it must be done quickly. The rule for reheating is that food must be heated to 165 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 seconds within 2 hours. There are 3 types of approved sanitizers for food service: chlorine, quaternary ammonium, and iodine.
The concentration of sanitizers is measured in parts per million, also known as ppm. The requirements are as follows. First, chlorine, 50 to 100 parts per million at 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Second, quaternary ammonia, 200 parts per million through 400 parts per million at 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Third, iodine, 12.5 to 25 parts per million at 75 degrees Fahrenheit. A 3-compartment sink must be large enough to submerge the largest piece of pots or pans to officially complete the cleaning process. Those steps are as followed: wash, rinse, and sanitize. Pest control. To minimize the increase of pest infestation in the food service establishment, food service operators must prevent entry and access, eliminate food, water, and shelter, and work with a licensed pest control operator.